this week with Colin Monkstown and Richard Kirby. The International is calling on the British government to establish an independent inquiry into the alleged torture of 14 men, so-called hooded men, in the north. The call came as the government here decided to go ahead with an appeal to the European Court of Human Rights of its 1978 ruling, which found that while the men had been subjected to cruel and inhumane treatment, their treatment did not fall into the category of torture. Thomas Hammerberg was the original Amnesty researcher on the case. Richard is also a former Council of Human Rights Commissioner for Human Rights. He's been giving me his view on this appeal to Strasbourg, and first recalling the mistreatment of the men at the hands of the British Army more than 40 years ago.
They were arrested, and there was brutality even during their arrest. They were beaten up, and they were beaten up during transport. Some of them were brought to a secret place, but they were hooded, so they didn't know where they were taken. There, they were under the process of interrogation. They were not only hooded, they were ordered to stand in a very fixed position, vertical, with the hands on the wall. And if they moved from that position, they were beaten from the back. But they didn't see anything. Every stroke was a shock for them. And there was in that room a hissing noise, a squeaking, which blocked off any other sound, which also had an impact on them. And they were deprived of sleep during this interrogation period, and also got very little food. And the combination of these methods had a very strong effect on them, and basically it meant that they had to, there was a sort of mental breakdown for them.
For how long did this treatment go on?
It didn't go on that long, a couple of days only, the combination of all these methods, but it had a very quick effect on their bodies. They just said anything that the interrogators wanted them to say. This was the first time that we in Amnesty realized that there was some danger in the combination of these, what they were called sensory deprivation methods, and that it really caused severe mental effects on the persons.
Did Amnesty at that time define that treatment as torture?
Yes, it was torture, even if that was during a time when there was a very strict definition of torture. And when the case came to Strasbourg, to the Human Rights Commission there, and then to the court, they discussed that matter as well, but found that it was inhuman and degrading, but it was not amounting to torture. And we were at that time, it came a couple of years after the event, we were disappointed because we felt that it was important to demonstrate that these methods can never be used in any country in the world.
Did the European Court of Human Rights elaborate on that decision, that distinction between cruel and inhumane treatment and torture?
In fact, both these concepts are there in the same article in the European Convention, but the idea was that torture is the worst cases of ill treatment, and more systematic perhaps than the other methods which would be covered by the same article. So it could be seen as nuances, but in fact it was understood by the other governments that these kinds of methods could be used, even if they also violated, according to the court, against other parts of the article in the convention.
Talk to us then about the new information that was discovered as a result of this RTE documentary in June of this year, the Torture Files documentary. What were the documents unearthed and what did they include?
The new documents found, they're old but now found, demonstrated that the British government actually were aware that